After 3 months of back and forth with the police that traveled through the country's courts, finally, one of Ghana's most talked about demonstrations happened on Wednesday. What started as a Twitter hashtag has now morphed into a movement that is seeking to put Ghana's political class on its toes. From as early as 6 a.m., people were already massing up.
The scores of demonstrators on the principal streets of Accra today, August 4, with varied placards with various inscriptions. Wamane in Ghana translates as "This is our country." Those supposed to serve eat more than the ones they serve. These are placards that they are hoisting. Fix the responding ex gratia now. A lot of the other placards all pointing to the same spot, that various sectors of the economy and other spaces of national life which need attention must be fixed now.
I think that's very important that we show that we reject the attitude of the government and we want to create a culture of dissent. It's important that we create a culture of dissent. We show our disapproval.
We are tired of the lies. Article 71 office holders are lies. It is bogus. It is a calculated attempt to steal us. We are tired of the mendacilloquence, the zabanism, and the political prostitute.
Since Ekufuado came into government in the last 5 years, how many of the community high schools that Muhammad was building, how many of them has he completed? How many of these children have not been sitting under these schools and the trees for the last 4 years? Recently, we saw that they said the rosewood that's been exported illegally, they're going to donate it to the cathedral. Would it not be better used if we use it to build schools for these children who are going to schools under trees?
This is rare. Demonstrations in Ghana have largely been led by the two major political parties, the NPP and the NDC. This is different. Here's one of the lead campaigners, Ernesto Yeboah.
As you can see, this is the youth of Ghana speaking. They are tired of MPP, NDC moribund leadership. They are sick of the system. And this is the time for them to voice their concerns. But more beyond it is the fact that today, August 4, is a rebirth of Ghana. And this in itself is a manifestation of that rebirth. But this is not the end. This is actually the beginning. If there are no leaders, the youth will rise up and lead this country to a better future. And that's simply the message we are sending to the rest of the world.
But of course, I'm sure the rest of the world is listening. There's no particular thing that you are requesting to be fixed. Run us through why we're not asking for A to be fixed or B to be fixed, but it seems to be a round of a lot of things.
We won't allow them to fool us anymore. We are not presenting any list to them. Nobody's voice is more than the other. Nobody has more than one vote. We are all equal and we all deserve to be listened to, because we are citizens of this country. If they care, if they are leaders enough, there is only one thing we expect from them: to listen, and to listen to each and every one of us. This is why we are not presenting any list.
This may be one street protest and hundreds have joined, but there are thousands of others who have joined the protest on virtual platforms like Twitter, where it all started.
All right, so yes, the Fix the Country protest came off yesterday. You saw the report and the numbers turned out. But the question we're asking this morning is what's next for the Fix the Country movement? And we'll be engaging Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. He's a political scientist at University of Ghana, and Oliver Barker-Vormowo, who's the convener of the Fix the Country. But before then, we've been asking you this question on social media. What is it that you wish, or as a supporter of the Fix the Country movement, how did the protest go for you, and what would you want to see next? And we're asking you to share your views. Anymore?
All right. Okay. Now let me just run through some of your comments. Rain Jonas says, okay, just give me a second. I commend the young leaders. I want to see replications in all the regional capitals and even district capitals. Let's continue until something concrete is achieved, especially regarding fixing this criminal 1992 constitution. Afeno Abla says it was a peaceful one. I appreciate the media personalities and houses that saw the importance of the demonstration and partook in it and showcased it. I salute all youth who came on board. In fact, the entire system needs an overhaul. Stephen Akko says next time it should be nationwide. Kweku Creole says they should sell Ghana. Mohammed Ibrahim says, to my own experience, or in my own experience, this is the only way we can fight for our motherland Ghana and for ourselves. Gail says, you could have brought your cameras there and go live with it, but you? So what do you want to know? You're not for the people, and this is becoming clear. Well, that's where you are very wrong. We were there live. We reported live. We had more than one reporter there. So just get your facts right next time, please. Akomia says, better Ghana. Kwame Afrifa says, turned to fix your trousers. Daniel Kusi says, I don't think they expect anything better after failure to submit petition on the courses. They accept, okay. 24 says it was boring. We could not burn a common car, Koba, police everywhere. I was even scared. I think you meant it was peaceful and safe, which is how it should be. Dr. Nice says, no results shall come. It was meaningless. Jesus wept. Says impeach Nanado, next action. Mercy Kujo says still waiting of new Ghana or fix people. Okay, Thomas says you want them to fix the country and you don't wear crash helmets. Don't you know that it's an offense? Abu says, oh God, okay, God will punish whoever took part and promotes this needless and time-wasting fix the country demo. It was the most useless demo I've ever heard of. All right, Abu. Kofi says, I want to see Kotis to stop taking bribe. Nate says, I saw some torn trousers and it reminded me of Dada on live TV. Okay, Nate. Kojo says, I thought all the challenges they talked about vanished last night. Sedem says it went well by his grace. Chief says, very well done. Hope they listen. And Dogo says, change. Thank you so much for all your comments. We love to continue to be live and interactive with you. The hashtag is AM Show, and the Facebook page is JoyNews.
Yes, indeed. All right, so let's get on to Zoom now and get to speak with Oliver Baka Vomowo. Good morning, Mr. Vomowo, and thanks for making time to speak with us. How did the protest go for you?
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. All right. So how did the protest go for you? Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm sorry I've lost my voice from yesterday, and I'm hoping and watchers can still hear me. One of the things I want to say is that for yesterday was only the beginning of a process, and I think that a lot of the people who have not appreciated that these concerns are genuine and what people are saying have perhaps gotten a glimpse of that. Personally, I was not surprised by the number of people who turned up, that this has ended up becoming one of the biggest, or perhaps the biggest, political demonstrations ever in this country's history. I think it's a credit to a lot of the people who have helped make this a successful event and also a very peaceful event.
How many would you estimate? How many would you estimate came?
We are doing that process through using the drone to be able to verify the numbers. So I don't want to put out any numbers which may turn out to be inaccurate today. I've seen a lot of reportage from the BBC and DW saying several thousands of people, and I think that's correct. But the exact numbers would take a bit of time to really say.
All right. So, yes, we've had the Fix the Country demonstration, which you're saying was very successful. And you're saying that it's going to be replicated across the country. So, where next?
Well, I think the idea that we've always talked about, that we are engaged in a process about fixing the country and not about fixing Accra. And so if we stunt the conversations within Accra, we'd have done a lot of disservice to Ghanaians who do not live their lives in Accra and who do not partake in Accra problems. A lot of the people who were elected to parliament come from constituencies that extend beyond Accra. when the presidents and people who are seeking presidential mandate go to every community in Accra. We want to be engaged those people in a process about how and what they think needs to be done about the country. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going from Accra to Kumasi next. We have been set out the date, and we're going to be informing the police, as we've always done, to make sure that this is a lawful process. And from there, we'll continue to other regions as well. But it takes a lot of careful planning. It takes making it delivered right, and also ensuring that public health is protected, lives are protected, and people are able to participate in a process that improves the substance of our democracy.
One of the criticisms that has come up is the fact that, well, there were several people who, even though you promised that there was going to be strict adherence to the COVID-19 protocols, there were several people who dropped their mask or probably were not wearing masks at all. How did that fare? Because you talked about you having your marshals ensuring that people were complying with the protocols. What happened?
Let us put things in context. That we had thousands of people who had showed up at the event. The vast majority of them, and everybody can attest to, I think the reporters were there as well, and the vast majority of people were complying and wearing masks. Many people were double masking, in fact, as we had asked people to do. But the purpose of having marshals in place is to understand that at various moments, persons who may want to speak may feel that the mask is obstructing them, and so may drop it down to shout. But the marshals are there to enforce them and to remind people of their responsibility to do that. And I did so consistently, and so did so many other conveners, because we recognize that that was likely to happen. And what you want to do in events like this is to minimize the disregard for these things. And that's what we did to excellently, and you can attest to that.
Okay, so I put out a post on Facebook yesterday looking at the placards that were hoisted, and I was saying that, look, fix the country means different things to different people. And the issues that you've raised, they are not issues that can be addressed in a year or in 2 years. So what's the plan, or what is it that you're actually expecting or want to see happen?
So I think let's be clear about something. The broken system that we have has taken 30 years to be this broken. And with those 30 years, we've always been consistently promised that they were going to be fixing the country.
Okay, hold on. You're saying 30 years, it got broken 30 years ago?
I'm talking only about our democracy. I'm not going beyond the democracy. So I'm referring only to the 1992 Constitution.
All right.
And that's the new era we talk about the Fourth Republic. Now, in this process, we've elected people consistently who've told us that one mandate is not enough to fulfill the promises they need. They need a second mandate. Some people have even suggested that the 8 years is not enough. Now, if we are engaged in that process of asking that these issues need to be prioritized, it doesn't take away from the substance of our message to say that we cannot face the problems in 6 months. That's not what anybody is saying. We are saying that the process must continue throughout the life of the Republic. And citizens would come up like we have done. And others will continue the battle to keep persons in check. But there are certain things which we need to put in place, which we are not doing. It's been 4 months, you would agree, that we've been talking about these issues. There has been no national conversation about how are we getting some of these issues addressed. There's never been. The president has never addressed questions around face the country for 4 months. So are people waiting for demonstrations to continue coming before we take it with the urgency and seriously it deserves? I do not have those answers. But more importantly, beyond the placards that you saw, we have analyzed over 8 million tweets on Facebook or on Twitter, more importantly, and some on Facebook. And we've been able to systematize a lot of those complaints into about 3 or 4 critical issues, which we put out. A lot of them relate to our governance and the political system that we've established for ourselves that allows the political class to get away with so many things and disables accountability, true accountability. And we've talked about the need for the constitution, a new constitution for a new generation. That's one core proposal that you saw a lot of the speakers and a lot of people speaking yesterday highlight. It doesn't take a genius to realize that we need a process to get that fixed. A lot of the things we talked about is about a national development plan that is truly binding on people, that really sanitizes development planning. and give people a project to believe in. I was raised in a generation like you, where we were led to believe in the Vision 2020 agenda. We grew up really believing that Ghana was going to be different in 2020. I think the people who developed the document even talked about Ghana being like Singapore by 2020. Does Ghana look like Singapore? And the problem with that document is that it was never made binding without trackable and measurable standards by which to assess performance. None of that was done. And so it became a pastoral document, a mission statement we never lived up to. We do not want to live in mission statement. We want projects that we can believe in, a plan that really sets this country towards fixing. We haven't had that conversation yet. But we need to get into those conversations. So I think that there's a lot of these issues that can come together and coalesce into setting a project, because that's what people want to see, that there's a real plan and a vision towards how we do get this done. Nobody has seen that yet.
Now, you Fix the Country has been, put out as an apolitical movement. Would you say you succeeded in bringing together apolitical activists, or there were some political party activists who managed to make their voices heard there as well?
I think it would be inaccurate to even call Fix the Country an apolitical movement. The issues we're talking about are essentially political. That politics defines who gets rich and who gets poor, and whose healthcare is denied, and who is able to fly out of the country to seek healthcare. Those are politics. So politics lives around us. What we have decided to do is an apartisan process. That we want to go beyond partisanship. We want to go beyond the issues that divide us. That tribalism has no place in this conversation. That Ghanaians can come together and mobilize on an apartisan platform, which is what we did. We developed a consistent message around we do not need partisanship, which only divides, that doesn't unify to solve our problems. Now, I want to be clear. The Constitution guarantees to every individual the right to belong to a political party. People have that right. The beauty of a competitive politics, partisan politics, is supposed to help our democracy move forward. We are committed to that democratic ethic. And I think that democratic ethic goes through the ethos of the organization. But one of the things we have said is that when people are joining us to speak up, people should be confident to put down their party membership cards and join an event that is principally about Ghana and not about advancing the interests of political parties, whose whole orientation is about winning power. We are not mobilizing to form a political party and contest for elections. That is not what this is about.
All right, I want you to hold on, Mr. Vomowo. I also have on the line Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante is a political scientist at the University of Ghana. Thank you very much, Dr. Asah-Asante, for making time to speak with us. Now, my question to you is, you saw the Fix the Country demonstration yesterday. What do you make of it?
Good morning, and good morning to your viewers and listeners. The whole activity, but I watch snipers of this on news segments on television. But I must say that yes, it went well. The police well composed. They acted professionally, and the group themselves also did well to maintain their composure and all that. For me, it went well.
Now, demonstrations, we've seen a number of demonstrations in this country. Do they work at all?
Yes, they do. If you have been following the political history of this country, demonstration has been part and parcel of the whole exercise to get political messages sent to holders of political power and also direct the frontiers of the country's democracy. We've seen that during a champion's regime, where a lot of demonstration took place from professional bodies such as the Bar Association, Association of Registered Professional Bodies, NUCs, and what have you. We've seen in the Third Republic, we've seen a few of them. The Fourth Republic, we've seen a lot of demonstration. It is something that is worth seeing, and it must be done at all times, because these are the feedback that you get when you are governing, and people feel that there's a need to comment. They have the right to do so. So these are some of the manifestations of people's concerns, and we have seen that throughout the part of governance that we have experienced, even in the first, second, third, and this republic.
So let's look at yesterday's demonstration. What do you believe it's going to achieve?
Oh, I believe it's an important feedback as far as governance issues are concerned. There are things the government believe that, yes, they need to be fixed, and the government must get ready and hit the ground running and then get them fixed. There are some it needs to take time to address, but I'm sure all these things are signals that the government are picking, and they are going to work on that, because take it or leave it, this is the will of the expression of the people, and that you can't ignore that in a democracy. When people have given you their mandate, they require that you live up to expectation, and at any point in time, you can be called to account for the stewardship of your office. So that's exactly what the youth are doing, and for me, it is an ample testimony that democracy is gaining strength in this country. And if we continue on this tangent and make it all peaceful and have a dialogue, continuous dialogue, I'm sure we'll be able to strengthen the frontiers of our democracy and right the wrongs within our system.
So the government could also say that, well, I was just elected, or we're just elected a few months ago. It's been less than a year. And so whatever concerns you have, it's probably, you just have to wait for another, 3 years, and then we can go to the polls and you can decide. They can essentially ignore the protest because they're saying that they have a fresh mandate from the people.
Oh, it is true that I'm not sure the demonstrators want issues to be fixed today. No, I'm not sure that's what they are thinking about. If that is the case, then it's a different story, because the government has a 4-year mandate within which it has to live up to expectation. But we expect that when these things are raised, government will take time to reflect on them and also double up its effort so that some of the things that you can do within the shortest possible time, you do. And then let people see that there is action going on towards dealing with some of the concerns that they've raised. That is all that there is.
Now, the Fix the Country movement started several months ago. What is it that you've seen from government that suggests to you that government is taking them seriously?
Oh, from day one, you realize that government pusher was very welcoming, and that, yes, we are ready to listen to you. You air your grievances, and we are going to work with that. And I'm sure they have started working on that. You may not see evidence immediately, but I'm sure it's part and parcel of the governance process, and they are working with it. Because no serious government would just turn a blind eye to these things. Then you have your fingers bent, and I'm sure the government is up to the task. So I believe that, yes, government is listening, and government will do well to fix the problems as the people are saying. And it is also in the interest of the government to do so, because, look, Nana Akufo-Addo's tenure will come to an end in 4 years' time, and that there is a need for him to hand over the baton to whoever will become the flag bearer of the party. And one of the things that influence voter choices in this country is party records. What are you going to leave behind for somebody to start on to campaign and then get power and continue the administration of the state? It's a function of how you perform. And I'm sure government is not oblivious of this fact. And so I believe that, and I believe strongly, that government is picking signals and government will work at it. I have no doubt in my mind.
Let me put that same question to Oliver Vomowo. So, Oliver, you started this, or this movement has been going on for some months now. What is it that you've seen from governments that suggests to you that, well, government is likely to do something about the concerns that you're raising?
I think one of the points we have been consistent in talking about is that the issues we are dealing with extend beyond one government. And people would be unfair to expect that the path towards addressing the issues must be the sole responsibility of the government. It must entail every aspect of our political system and all the actors and stakeholders that are involved in. And I've talked consistently about the need for a national dialogue or a national conversation
All right, unfortunately, we're having issues with the connection to Oliver Vomowo, but I'm sure the connection will be restored. But I'll come to you, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. So what would you advise the Fix the Country movement? What would you say should be their next move?
I believe, and I believe strongly that there's a need for them to articulate their views clearly. When they need to come out as to what is it that they want the government to fix, so that we can get a sense of what they have in store for government. And that will also help government to be able to address the issues head on. Another thing that I also want the people to do is to continuously engage the public with discussion of what is it that they want the government to fix. We want them to be able to come out and then hold seminars, symposia, and hold a host of other programs so that people can understand them and people can follow the conversation. It is important that these things are done so that the ordinary man will get a sense of what is it that they want us to know so that we can know and know it well. I think governance is a dialogue affair that you give and then somebody takes. So I believe that the way they've started is the way to go, and government will also have a sober reflection on them and be able to do as just simply providing the public good. I think that is the way to go. And it will work in the interest of everybody, both the demonstrators and the people in government, and by extension to the whole populace at large.
All right, I believe we have Oliver back on the line. So Oliver, I'd want you to go on the back of what Dr. Asah-Asante has said about what he thinks that you should do or you should be doing. And then then you can go back to the question I asked you about what is it you see from government that suggests to you that they're taking it seriously.
So I do think there's a lot of unfairness that happens when we have these conversations. To say that we have not been clear about what we are asking for, it's a bit disingenuous. So many people have spoken about several socioeconomic problems. We have talked about, and even on this show, as we've been speaking now, I've talked about
Oliver,
the new constitution for a new generation.
Yeah, Oliver, I'm sure, I mean, I don't think he's suggesting that you have not articulated. I'm sure he probably means that he expects you to have some concise issues to present.
Specifically, I've heard this rhetoric a lot of times that goes beyond him. I'm not talking about him specifically. I've heard this said by several political actors who say they haven't been clear, they haven't written it down on a petition. But when you go consistent with release statements that have systematized these problems and say we need a new constitution because the current one doesn't work. We've said that so many times. We've talked about the need for a development plan that is binding. And by that entails a reform of the constitution. We talk about a new economic charter, a Marshall Plan of sorts that deals with the labor issues we have in this country, that deal with the inequities in salary administration, that deal with infrastructural issues. So these issues have been put on the table for so long. I think that we become comfortable with the easy question, which is doom-so demonstration. So everybody knows that, okay, buy a lot more badges, and then a couple of years down the line, we have judgment debts because we're overproducing. That's not what we're talking about. We say the problem is systemic. So let's have systemic conversation. To then say that because we are not saying water only, that is not being articulated enough about the problems. And it thrives in dishonesty that doesn't allow us to solve the problem. Now to the other question, which is what has government done that gives us an indication that they're doing something. I think it is important to stress, and we've said that from the beginning, that the issues we are raising go beyond government, that it is not one person's responsibility. It entails all the best parts of ourselves as a society, that it must involve all stakeholders, the Ghanaian people first and foremost, and also institutions that were put in place with Parliament, National House of Chiefs, Council of State, all the various institutions that make political life real in this society. And it has been, and so the process must entail all of these people. But government has a unique role as a facilitator, and it must facilitate the process. Nobody's asking that you must have all the answers and must deliver all the solutions today. So the whole conversation about fixing this together, that is started by us. We have asked that that process entail all of us. But first and foremost, one of the things we have said is that we tend to be a republic which thrives on quick fixes. If we can get 1, 2 things together, that means that everything is done. We must go into a process which recognizes that there are Ghanaians in so many parts of this country that do not live in Accra, that do not exist in the online space, who must be engaged in the conversation. And that is what we are doing. We are doing our part by doing this demonstration, by continuing our advocacy and taking it out into the regions and towns. So that is the process of education that we are involved in. And then one of the things we are saying is that we're going to be collecting, and announced yesterday, that we're going to collect 1 million signatures of a vote of no confidence in the 1992 Constitution and in the politics of the Fourth Republic. So that is our process in engaging the citizenry. Now, the role of the facilitator-in-chief, which is the government, must also wake up to that responsibility and also facilitating conversation and facilitating frameworks that produce results, starting from how do we get a new constitution in place that addresses the so many problems that the 1992 Constitution leaves us with.
Finally, I want to ask you, Oliver, are you sure you can do this without the support of the two main political parties? Because between them, they command so many votes. And if you're talking about you're collecting 1 million signatures, eventually, if we have to change the Constitution, we'd have to go to a vote, a referendum. Is it possible you could do this without the two main political parties?
I think one of the things we have to understand that Ghanaians are more than their parties. And nobody is saying that this has to be done without political parties. What we are saying is that we are taking a message to Ghanaians, the same Ghanaians who make those political parties the platforms that they have, and saying that those Ghanaians must carry the message and that we get better results if we do not do so within the framework of political parties because it divides us. So we are unifying people rather than dividing them. And if we're introducing partisanship, we are tending to divide rather than unify. But also, we have to be mindful and remind ourselves of our political history. Now, my co-panelists now just talked about the demonstrations that happened under Trump. There were no political parties allowed, but Ghanaians mobilized. Professional unions mobilized. We have been speaking to the TUC in a series of various meetings. We have been speaking to other organized labor that are not under the TUC platform. We have been speaking to civil society. We're speaking to different units of mobilizing in our communities and to networks and community-based organizations as well. Those are the people that we can engage in the conversation to make this work. Political parties are smart organizations, and they have been doing mobilizing for a long time. And they understand that these problems, they have talked about them as well. So we expect them to join that conversation and process as well. To give you a final example, when we did the constitution review process, this was after the 2008 election, every political party had it on this manifesto that we needed the constitution fixed. So political parties are stakeholders in that process, and we want to invite them in that conversation, not to hijack the conversation and divide, but rather to unify Ghanaians towards that objective. And I think we can do this if Ghanaians are committed to the process.
All right, thank you very much, Oliver Barker-Vormawor. He is a convener of the Fix the Country movement. And I'll come to you, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, a political scientist at the University of Ghana. I put that question to Oliver Vormawor about the involvement of the political parties, because as you've seen the protests, I mean, we've observed demonstrations in this country many times, and you've seen the numbers that came out to support the movement. Except these numbers, these same people who came out to protest, when it gets to an election and they have to vote, they're going to choose one political party or the other. It's either going to be the NDC or the MPP, and it is what their party usually says that they're going to go with. How can we achieve this without bringing on board the political parties or, converting as many of the supporters as possible?
Yes, I think is right. Before I begin that, let me just make a quick correction. I think my colleague got me wrong because if you look at the issue I was talking about, starting from the time that this group emerged, you realize that they've been talking about issue of taxes, infrastructure development, unemployment. So,
we agree.
yes, from that point, one would have said that, yes, these are the issues they were trying to put across. But students and the political system, new constitution together, you realize that there's a need for a clearer, articulation of the issue so that we know which one we are dealing with. Once you talk about governance, if that is where you want to go, let it stand out so that we know that you are taking the government on looking at the governance indicators and all that. And remember that this is a big concept and it entails a whole lot of things that they need to spell out for us to know what they are talking about. And that doesn't take away the fact that they have the right to do so. If you read the directive principle of state policies, some of the things they are talking about are clearly spelled out here. From the point of view of social contract, it's clearly there. And then even the role of the executive in providing social infrastructure and all that. So clearly speaking, be able to articulate them clearly so that we know the specific issues. Once you lump all together, it becomes difficult for us to follow. Having said that, I think that back to your question, the political parties are not different from the Ghanaian society. Let us remember that people make up the political parties. So the continuous engagement with the people, if they go on this tangent, at the end of the day, all of us will come on board to be able to address these issues. And for me, it is a function of government that is critical, that everybody wants to be part of. Whenever there is an issue, we discuss, and then we find, the proper solution to the problem. I think that is the only way to go. The continuous engagement, and then those who hold political power must also be prepared to listen to them and see the way forward. That is the only way to go.
Okay, but the point I'm actually making is they need, or there should be a way to convert as many of these political parties, the people who vote for the political parties, to convert them to believe in the cause of the Fix the Country movement, so that if you're going into a referendum, for instance, you want the constitution changed, you need that critical mass. How can they do that?
Yes, for the constitution, I'm sure the Constitutional Review Commission report is available for us to look at it and see which one we can implement in no time and which one that we need to take a second look and all that. I'm not a lawyer, but I believe that something has been done already. We need to look at that one and see whether we can fix that. And moving from there, you can take in other areas or bring other areas on board so that you can look at it. But let us not pin it down to political parties, because remember, yes, the parties are nothing without the population. So we, the individuals, must be able to be brought on board with the discussion so that at the end of the day, we understand what the issues are, we follow, and then we can make relevant contribution. I think that is the way to go.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, political scientist at the University of Ghana, for joining us for this conversation. Earlier, we had Oliver Barkovomo, a convener of the Fix the Country movement, speaking with us.